So we are going to go into e-commerce tutorial. Basically in this session, we are going to do two related stuff. One is, one of your exercises, what is the e-commerce technology that you need to put together to operate a e-commerce platform, okay? And you're going to do some Google investigation. For example, I want you to do what kind of technology or systems Flipkart does or Amazon. You pick one of the vendors, and you do investigate what are the technology they're using to put together an e-platform. Platform. That's number one. After that, the second exercise would be more along the line of these technologies, which one or in addition to this technology, which ones you would suggest to make various laws easily, you can make the system compliant to those laws, either a priori or once it is in place, periodically ensure they are compliant. So, see, one of the problem with a lot of laws or compliance is often it requires humans to see how compliant they are. Even when they produce audit and all those things, humans have to be involved. But what if, to begin with, the system is reasonably compliant? For example, instead of asking people to write their own privacy policy, what if there is a privacy policy generator which ensures that privacy policy that's displayed by the company is reasonably correct, okay? So one of the ways in which you can ensure compliance is upfront designing the system. By design, it is compliant, okay? Okay, so that's what we are trying to do. So the second part, you got to go through various laws that we outlined before and see which one can be automated, okay? Can you think of system that can help to automate this? Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. Okay, but in general, believe me, still many of it cannot be easily automated. Humans have to be involved. Again, you know, a lot of machine learning, artificial intelligence. The question would be, which part can be automated? So you're going to do some thinking. First, you're going to design a system using some standard components, not worry about compliance. But then you're going to modify the required system to have more systems that make you compliant with the various laws. Okay, and again, if you're trying to find a niche area, you want to produce a system to support e-commerce, this is the way to do. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. First, okay, let's do what is e-commerce system architecture look like. Okay, so this is the typical e-commerce. You have a client, okay, and the client sends the request to the server, usually web server, and then the web server retrieves a lot of data coming back and a response. This will go on and on. This is usually what is called a three-tier architecture. There are variations, but this is what you do, okay? Sometimes it could be four, but this is the basic idea. Okay, so the tiers and technologies. The first tier is the client tier. It's usually a web browser. It could be also a mobile app. Increasingly, if you want to do Amazon or Flipkart, they give you their own app, okay? And the client tier could even be intermediate servers like payment gateways. And then the web server tier is usually web servers such as Apache, application servers like Tomcat and JBoss. Again, you may not design the web system yet, or you may not have taken a course in web technology, but if you do, these things should sound familiar. Okay, then this application tier. This is the one that does a lot of this work. This middle tier implements the core business logic, order processing, inventory management, and even services such as authentication, authorization, and accounting. In other words, the most intelligence lies in the application tier. The web service tier is basically it's a front end to deal with the customer. And the client tier is the one, it could be an app, it could be a web browser, it could be some other application that's trying to deal with, okay. And then the database tier, that's where all the data is. Personal data, all the things you ordered, everything is in the back. The backend tier stores and manages all data. Usually they are RDBMS. RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management Systems, such as MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, or increasingly they are becoming NoSQL databases like MongoDB. Again, this session is not make you technical expert on web service design, but it gives you a feel for how generally web technology works, okay? Okay, and it could even be file server. But increasingly, this is not the way systems are designed, okay? They are what's called composable architecture. This way, people can put together systems very quickly. They're all components. You assemble components to make service. Because since we have been doing e-commerce for the last more than 20 years, we have a good idea what various components should be, regardless of what you try to sell. You know, most of them are standard components. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you sell some widget, you know, or you sell cell phones, or you sell shirts. It doesn't matter. Basically, they're all items. They all can be stored. They all can have a unique number, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the composable architecture basically consists of secure payment processing, because regardless of what you do, payment is an issue. Okay, so there will be system to process payment. And mobile commerce. Mobile apps are essential for reaching customers on their smartphones and tablets. Increasingly, almost every company has their own mobile app for that company's thing. And increasingly, they all have to follow standard format for data exchange between systems. It's called EDI. And if there is if the system that processes any widget, because this all, remember, this is all transaction. So you buy something, you sell, you know, that's the idea. So inventory management system, there got to be a system sitting there. Say if you ordered a shirt, you know, from a Binny, it will tell, okay, how many Binny shirts of medium size are there, and how much of them are white color. Okay, there is one shirt that white color this guy wants, reduce the thing, and then move that thing to the next to shipping department, okay? So the inventory management system is sort of a crucial for any e-commerce system. In other words, that's the one that manages what's going to be sold, okay? And then supply chain management system. In other words, if you have inventory, okay, sometimes there may be actually a storage where we have, then you have to order from the supplier. Okay, if you're making a shirt, if you're selling shirt, you have to, you know, you have a system that talks to various people who make shirts. Okay, so essentially you need a system that manages the supply side. Hey, I have now in my storage, I have only 10 shirts left of this size, so I need to order 100 more for the next 1 week. Okay, and also you may have to prepay or postpay, whatever. You have to manage the supply side. So the supply side management system, optimize everything. So the reason why the optimizing the flow of goods is very important. The reason is the more you store ahead of time, it is a waste of your money because you have to store them, you have to get insurance for them, all these things, what is called, you want to order just one day before so that you don't take the responsibility of storing them and insuring them and so on. So sometimes it's called a just-in-time manufacturing. If it's a manufacturing, here it's just-in-time selling. Okay, so the supply chain management is very important. You got to order right time, not too soon, not too late. If it's too late, then you got to say to the people ordering, no, it might take you 10 days to get your shirt, and they will say, oh, I'm going to go to somebody else. Okay, so everything you have to do to make customer happy and deliver it the moment you want to deliver. And then you need online marketing tools, search engine optimization, social media marketing, all these things you have to do marketing. For example, Amazon constantly will bug me because 2 months ago I looked for something and I never bought it. So they'll constantly say, oh, you may be interested in this, you may be interested in this, that type of stuff. Essentially, they will just, basically the idea is the more they bug, eventually you will give in, okay, based on your buying habits, okay. So the online marketing is very important. And also you may be just browsing, you may not even ordered anything, and they would know all your browsing habits, and then they will bother you. And not only that, they will give that information to another marketing company who will bug as well, because that's why they make money. Okay, and then there's a customer relationship management system. Essentially managing the complaint, managing their basically their complaint, tracking it and responding to them, and often giving them personal experience. Okay, so basically, if you look at an e-commerce system, a lot of it, people have been doing it for over 25 years. So we know how to do this. Okay, so all you have to do if you're buying, if you're using it for your thing, you just put this thing together with some glue. Okay, so that's what's called composable system. Okay, so increasingly, this is how the technology is going. In fact, it's true of all major businesses. E-commerce is one which we know exactly what those components are, okay? Okay, now, okay. So what I would like you to do, your first assignment, okay, is research what technologies e-commerce companies are using in India. Okay, so you could either use Flipkart or Amazon, pick your choice. Okay, go and find out by doing a lot of Google search or whatever, ChatGPT, whatever, find out what technologies these companies are doing, and then write a short report, basically assemble all those things and a little bit justify which composable system it corresponds to, why they will all work, okay? So the first part is your essentially, the technologies or components that e-commerce systems are using in India, okay? Now, the reason why I picked up India is it's pretty much the same everywhere, but I think, these are systems that you are familiar with. Okay, so this is the first tutorial. Now, I can't share my answer because it's all being graded. Otherwise, I would share it after 1 hour. But because of it will be graded, I have to wait, okay? Maybe tomorrow after turn it in, I'll just come back and give you my perspective. The next thing is much more relevant to cyber law. Research what technologies, components are used or can be used to comply with laws and regulations in e-commerce. Remember, we went through at least 6 or 7 slides, various laws. Okay, what can be automated? What can be designed upfront that is compliant to begin with? Okay, so the more you make the system, even during design, compliant, there's no reason to look over. Okay, I'm going to give you two examples. I mean, you need to put another at least 5, 10, whatever. The first one is secure payment gateways. Okay, so basically it encrypts sensitive payment information to prevent fraud and comply with the PCI DSS standards. PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Data Sticker Standards. Okay, so, by having secure payment gateways follow the standards, automatically you are meeting the Reserve Bank of India secure payment system guidelines. Okay. The next one is everywhere, there's a lot of privacy policy. Okay, a simple one, don't let people write their own policy, but let's generate it. Okay. And based on that company needs, what private information you are getting, what you will protect. A lot of it is sensitive private information, such as credit card number and all those things. Okay. So I'm just giving you 2 examples which can help with the compliance. Your job is to extend this list with another, whatever you can think of. Okay, by going through each law, each regulation. Remember, I gave you pages and pages of e-commerce. Okay, various laws, remember, for page after page we did this. Okay, so you go through this list, think what you can try to automate, or okay. Okay, that's the idea. I'm sorry?
There was one single slide that listed all the laws.
Oh yeah, right. That's a good point. No, this one. So what you're trying to do is what is that I can automate here? Okay, that's not what you want to do. Or even semi-automate. There may be things that are not listed here, that's also possible. For example, there's a law that require you sell it to not minors. So that means anybody coming into your system, you have to do age proofing. How can you proof age? Okay, so you have to have a dialogue to make sure it's not a kid who is buying it. Okay, you can collect enough information so that you can say no, ask your mom or dad to buy it or whatever. The point is, at least the system should legitimately ask, what's your age? Okay, as soon as you log in, usually in a parent's name, are you the real person or your thing, okay? And then decide the age. Just ask at least the question, what is your age? Do you have a permission from your parent? So the moment you ask those questions, then you are in compliance. You as a e-commerce vendor, you are compliant. So only time you are not compliant is you simply not even bother to ask those questions. See, often compliance is you did legitimately, you went through your due process. You went through, at least finding out, asking the right questions. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so then you can say, look, I asked the right questions. The kid lied, that's not my problem. At least I asked the questions. Okay. So many times in our automation is simply asking the right questions, during the interaction. You can say, for example, when they ordered, I asked the person right questions. Okay, is this you? Is this your parent? Okay, do you still want to use this credit card? Okay, that way you're making sure it's not a fraudulent. Okay, and again, just before payment, you want to do authentication one more time. Okay, see, and in fact, you want to do authentication, two-factor authentication. So that way, it's not somebody else is doing it. So those are the kinds I want you to do. Essentially, think what kind of interaction, what kind of tools I can use to make sure certain things, bad things don't happen. That includes even fraud prevention. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's all group exercise. Everything is a group exercise. Choose the group you want. First finish the technology part, then move on to this. Okay. Ideally, I would like to share some answers, but I may have to wait until tomorrow. Okay, so right now it is 2 o'clock. So you have a totally an hour and a half to finish both the exercises. I think that should be enough time. Okay.